They called him a deliverer, a soldier of God, the protector of England. But to others, he was a dictator who banned joy, silenced voices, and ruled through fear. Born in 1599 to a modest gentry family in Huntingdon, he was not marked for greatness. He studied at Cambridge, dabbled in farming, and struggled with depression and crisis. A profound religious awakening transformed his life. He believed God had a purpose for him. That conviction, fierce, uncompromising, and unshakable, would guide him from obscurity to the highest seat of power in the land. He destroyed a king and became one in everything but name. So, who was the real Oliver Cromwell? He rejected the title of king but accepted nearly all of its trappings. He shut down theaters, suppressed gambling, closed alehouses, and even banned the public celebration of Christmas. Markets were forbidden to open on Sundays. Dancing was frowned upon. Music, unless religious, was suspect. England, under Cromwell, became a moral theocracy. He was named Lord Protector of the Commonwealth of England, Scotland, and Ireland. He lived in royal palaces. He was escorted by guards. His image appeared on coinage. Though he styled himself as a humble servant of the people and of God, he now ruled alone. Cromwell's military campaigns beyond its borders were far more brutal. He formed a cavalry regiment and quickly rose through the ranks, proving himself a brilliant and ruthless commander. His discipline and piety inspired men. Republicans who had once stood with Cromwell turned against him. He ruled between crises and conspiracy, never fully secure, never fully accepted, and brought Scotland under English control. The message was clear: loyalty would be rewarded. Now, he ruled like the very monarch he had destroyed. Resistance would be punished by fire, steel, or divine wrath. Years of stress, war, and divine burden had ravaged him. In 1658, Oliver Cromwell died in London at the age of 59. The nation was stunned. For nearly a decade, he had held the country in his hand. He had fought kings, tamed parliaments, and reshaped England by the sword. Now he was gone. His skull was placed on a spike above Westminster Hall, the same place where Charles I had been sentenced to death. Parliament had grown stronger. The idea that the people mattered, that power could be challenged, had taken root. Cromwell had not destroyed monarchy, but he had redefined it. Statues were raised, streets named. Historians argued over his intentions, his ideals, and his brutality. It remembers consequences, not intentions. Cromwell changed England forever. He showed that no throne is eternal, no ruler above question, and no revolution immune from becoming the thing it once opposed. Was he a tyrant who crushed freedom under the heel of religious extremism, or a visionary who dared to break the chains of divine rule? Charles II landed in England with cheering crowds. The monarchy was restored, the republic erased. The king who had been executed was now a martyr. Cromwell, once hailed as a liberator, was branded a traitor. Others warned it was betrayal. In the end, he declined. Publicly, he claimed principle. Privately, he may have feared revolt from the army that had always distrusted monarchy. He fought for liberty, then censored his enemies. He built a republic, then ruled it like a king. He claimed to serve God, then enforced his will with violence. He was shaped by faith, consumed by duty, a people divided, and a legacy that still sparks debate centuries later. Whether he was a tyrant or a hero depends on where you stand, what you remember, and what you choose to believe about power, conviction, and the men who hold them, and ultimately undone by the very power he believed was divine. Instead, he reaffirmed his position as Lord Protector. But the damage was done. The mere consideration of kingship had exposed his contradictions, and as instability grew, so did a dangerous idea that maybe monarchy had been better. In 1649, after a trial orchestrated by Parliament, Charles I was executed. These were Cromwell's eyes and fists, enforcing the new regime and watching for dissent. Morality became law. Surveillance was constant. He strengthened the navy. His support for the Navigation Acts laid the groundwork for a future British Empire. Within months, the fragile protectorate began to collapse. Parliament turned against him. The army mutinied. In 1659, Richard was forced to resign. The protectorate dissolved in confusion and disillusionment. He invited Jewish communities back to England after centuries of exile. He sought unity across the three kingdoms, England, Ireland, and Scotland, though through domination, not consent. And all of it, in his eyes, was righteous. In 1649, Cromwell landed in Ireland to crush royalists and Catholic resistance. At Drogheda, he gave no quarter. His troops slaughtered over 3,000 soldiers and civilians, priests and women. At Wexford, it was worse. Homes were burned, churches desecrated, civilians drowned while fleeing across rivers. Cromwell called it divine justice. The Irish called it genocide. For the first time in English history, a king was killed by his own people. The world held its breath. Monarchy, once believed to be sacred and unshakable, was dead. His tactics devastated enemies. At battles like Marston Moor and Naseby, Cromwell's forces shattered royalist armies. But military victory was not enough. The war had become holy. After the execution of King Charles I in 1649, England stood on the edge of something unseen and the monarchy was dead. The divine right of kings shattered on the cold stones of Whitehall. A republic had been declared, but it was a republic trembling in its infancy, birthed in blood, and gasping for structure. Into this void of power, chaos, and divine prophecy stepped a man not born to rule but forged to lead. Oliver Cromwell was no nobleman. The rump parlin what remained, after Cromwell had purged the moderate swaths weak, corrupt, and self-serving. It argued, it stalled, it bicked. Cromwell watched in mounting frustration as the revolution he had fought for decayed in political stagnation. In April 1653, he stormed into Parliament with soldiers, called the members a pack of corrupt men, and dissolved it by force. In the name of God, go, he thundered, casting out the last voices of Republican debate. When civil war erupted between King Charles and Parliament in the 1640s, Cromwell did not hesitate. To Cromwell, Charles was not just a political problem, he was an ungodly tyrant. And ungodly tyrants must fall. But the republic that followed was far from stable. A new government was formed, but real power lay with one man, Oliver Cromwell. His vision for the nation was godly, disciplined, and orderly. Fun was a threat. Sin was everywhere. He divided the country into military districts, each governed by a major. But while England endured Puritan rule, in Ireland, his name became synonymous with massacre. Scotland fared little better. Though Protestant Scots had supported Charles II, Cromwell invaded, defeated them at Dunbar and Worcester. And yet, even as he ruled with force, Cromwell presented himself as a reformer. He expanded England's trade network. Still, his rule remained precarious. Parliament was sidelined. Dissenters were suppressed. Royalists plotted in secret. And then came the question that would shake his regime. Should Cromwell become king? In 1657, Parliament offered him the crown. For months, he agonized. Some argued it would bring stability. He had started as a revolutionary. His health was failing. He named his son, Richard Cromwell, as successor. It was a fatal mistake. Richard lacked his father's charisma, conviction, and military backing. He was neither soldier nor statesman. What followed was chaos. Factions battled for control. The army ruled without direction. In 1660, just 2 years after Cromwell's death, the exiled son of Charles I returned. His corpse was dug up from Westminster Abbey, hanged in chains, and yet, the restoration was not a full return to the past. The monarchy that came back was changed. The king ruled, but not alone. His legacy became a battlefield of its own. In England, some would later honor him. In Ireland, he was remembered as a butcher. In Scotland, a conqueror. Among English Puritans, a prophet. Among royalists, a usurper. His contradictions defied easy answers. History does not offer clear judgments. He left behind a nation reformed. If you want to know what happened when the monarchy finally returned, watch the next video.